another Monday, and we are continuing from where we stopped on the program Law and You. I am Adesuwa Osa-Uwagie, and I still have St. Michael Egwaoge, who is a legal practitioner. Last week we were looking at fair hearing. We're continuing from there today. So stay tuned, get a cup of tea or water, the best drink, relax, and then let's, thrill you a bit today on Law and You. So barrister, we'll meet again. We're continuing from where we stopped last week. Now we stopped at every person who is charged with a criminal offense shall be entitled to be informed promptly in the language that he understands and in detail of the nature of the offense. We have also talked about somebody having the powers to defend himself if he doesn't want the services of a lawyer. Yes. But what if this person is not competent enough to defend him or herself?
Nice, Abby. Nice, Abby. When, you see...
Can the court help?
Not at all. The rights is available. Is right there, for you to secure legal representation of your choice. And the choice is also yours to elect either to take a lawyer or to defend yourself. So once you waive the rights of legal representation, you defend yourself. And then once you elect to defend yourself, strictly speaking, you are treated as a lawyer.
Okay.
You understand? So, for everything, there is a cause and there are consequences. There's a consequence behind every action. Okay. Anything that follows after that, you have to bear it, your own cup of tea, just like you said earlier on.
Okay, here we have that a person is entitled to copies of the judgment in the case he was involved in within 7 days of the conclusion of that case. How many people really know that they are entitled to copies of judgment?
Quite a few persons. You see, when you, during your opening of this same program last week, you said that the easiest way to conceal something from an average Nigerian
is to hide it in a book.
Still keep it inside a book. You know why? Because we don't read. A lot of us are not aware of our rights because we don't read. If we cannot, people don't even read newspapers. How do you expect them to even read the Constitution? Some of them even see it as one of the most technical books. But however, this right is available. Once matters are concluded in court, litigants have the right, they have a right to, copies of the judgment, so as to avail them the opportunity, to look at the judgment and then decide whether they want to appeal or not.
Okay.
That is why that right is available.
Okay, let's go and look at section 10 now. That said, no person who shows that he has been pardoned for a criminal offense shall again be tried for that offense.
In the foreign, countries like US, it is known as a double jeopardy. When a person have been tried, for a particular offense
and pardoned for that offense,
and it was either punished or pardoned for that offense, he can no longer be tried for the same offense anymore. If that happens, it becomes a, double jeopardy. So the Constitution frowns at it. And I'm not sure, that kind of, practice thrive in our jurisdiction here.
Okay.
For example, a case in point is that of Alamisiga, the former governor of Bayelsa State. Of course, we know that he was tried and convicted, for an offense, and the president, in his infinite wisdom, decided to grant him a state pardon. and they haven't been granted a state pardon, he can no longer be tried for that offense anymore.
And when that brings to mind the issue of ex-convict. A man has been tried, either punished or pardoned. Do you still refer to that man as an ex-convict? Even if he went to prison for that and was later pardoned?
If once somebody is granted a state pardon, in the eyes of the law, that person it is like that person never committed that offense ab initio. It's more or less like a person who committed offense against God, and God decided to forgive you.
Is a forgiving God always?
You know, when God forgives you over a particular sin,
you have a clean slate.
You have a clean slate. That is how it is. You know, that is how a state pardon is. When a state pardon is granted to a man, what it means is that that man have a new lease of life. That person has a new history. He's born again. It's like that person have been asked to go and sin no more. You know, so that extent, you can't call that man an ex-convict. He's not an ex-convict.
So he's free.
Because he did not commit that offense in the first place. That's the implication.
All right, so let's move on to 37 now, which borders on rights to private and family life.
Yes.
And here it is the privacy of citizens, their homes, correspondence, telephone conversations, and telegraphic communications is hereby guaranteed and protected.
Yes.
Is this truly the position in our country, Nigeria?
You just said so. Really, it is there. It is in the Constitution,
yes.
You know?
But is that a true position?
Of course, I said last week in this program that we live in a banana republic, where laws are not obeyed, where the constitutions are abused, without sense of impunity, and at that reckless frequency. The right to privacy and to family life is the most offended of all the rights guaranteed in chapter 4. If a policeman is coming to your place right now to arrest you, of course you know what will happen.
I don't know. I've not been arrested before, and I don't want to be arrested.
Police barge into people at will. Law enforcement agents, they barge into people's home at will.
Can the police not arrest you at will without a warrant?
There are offenses, for which a police can arrest somebody, without warrants, and there are also offenses, where a police cannot equally arrest you, without a warrant. Of course, we cannot, go into that today because it's a very wide and a very broad aspect.
Now, let's quickly look at the role of security agents in as regards this section. A man can just... I was somewhere where a young man was being questioned by policemen. I think he drove rough or something, or he saw the police I was trying to dodge on my way to work. And then his phone was confiscated and some other documents that he was holding, and the police were like flipping through those documents. Is that right? You take a man's phone from him and you're going through the phones when the man has, he has a right. You're infringing on his private life now.
You see, under the Police Act, police has the power to accost and arrest anybody upon a reasonable suspicion that that person has either committed a crime or is about to commit a crime or could, commit a crime. And this aspect of the Police Act is what the police usually hide under, most times, to, do so many things they do today in our society.
Okay.
Of course, a policeman could hide under this. A policeman could tell you that he suspects that person perhaps, stole that phone or may have used that phone to commit an offense. And as such, there's no way he will determine, that if he does not accost and collect that phone and perhaps, run through that, phone, that could fall under investigation and interrogation. Okay. Yes, the police, could do that, but, there's a limit, for every right. Of course, there are limitations. Where my rights, starts and end, that is where the right of another person starts. For the society will be orderly and will be just and will be fair if we all know our rights and we know where it ends.
Sometimes telephone conversation of two or more people can be hacked into.
Yes.
By security agents without asking.
Without permission.
Without permission. So why do they do this? Isn't that infringing on my rights?
Yes, it amounts to an infringement of your right.
So if I decide to bring an action, what do I do?
You just file an action, in the court of law, using coming under, enforcement of, fundamental human rights, and the proper venue as provided under, enforcement of fundamental human rights rules is either the federal high court or the state high court, and these matters are usually filed, by way of simple motion, which is usually on notice, So if you feel or you fear, that your right has been infringed upon, or it's about to be infringed upon, you could, approach any lawyer.
Okay, let's look at somebody who is a public office holder, like you now. Let's pretend you're the governor of the state, or maybe a senator or minister, just a public office holder.
Yes.
And then somebody is infringing on your rights, so to speak. Do you really have a private life as a public office holder? Do you have a private life?
Yes. Every public officer have private life. The public
officers, celebrities,
Yes,
sometimes you go on net and you see all sort of write-ups against.
They have both private life and public life. So you have to draw a distinction.
So how do you draw that distinction? That is the problem here.
You see,
a celebrity is being disturbed, paparazzi and all that, following that celebrity around, looking for public office holders to look for some kind of worms to open.
If, for example, I'm a celebrity or a public officer, any of your action that have the capacity,
and I'm a pressman, can I hassle you to get information from
any of your action as a pressman that have the capacity of causing injury to my person, could amount to a breach of my fundamental right. Don't you think so?
And you can bring an action.
Yes, I will bring an action against you. Like what happened against the late the Princess of Wales.
Okay,
Diana. Where she was unnecessarily being disturbed. Of course, you know how the story ended. She was eventually killed. Yes, a journalist have the right, to source for to scavenge, for information, but such a journalist is adjourned by the law, to do it with all sense of decorum, such as not to, cause harm or injury, to the life and privacy of that public individual, celebrity.
Okay. All right, so let's do 38, which says right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion.
Yes.
Can you talk on this? Can you expatiate this?
This is very, very, very broad, but I'll do my best.
No, we're going to cut it short just for that man, that woman out there to know what we're talking about, to know what we're dealing with.
The right to freedom of thoughts, the right to freedom of religion, and the right to freedom of conscience. Simply mean that every man have a right, to uphold any faith of his or her choice. I even have a right, to become a free thinker. And the state does not have the power, to deny me of such rights. And that is why, in fact, it is this section of the law that makes our country a secular state. Secular in the sense that every man or woman have the right to profess any religion or faith of his or her choice, without fear of intimidation, without fear of molestation.
What if this intimidation is coming from the family? Maybe the father, the mother, hey, you cannot do this. I dictate for you what to do and all that. Can't?
You have a right to defend yourself. By way of, going to court. Let the court, call the person to order. You even have a right to even report that person to the police. And the police equally have a duty, to investigate. And if that is so, the police equally have the power to caution somebody who is, unnecessarily, molesting and intimidating person, simply because, the person is professing a particular faith or religion or a particular thought.
Okay. Be that as it may, don't I have a right to belong to a secret society?
Oh, no. You see, this is where the principles of J.J. Rousseau, comes into play. Here he said that man was born free, but everywhere in chain. What that means is that almost every constitution of the world, of every country, guarantee man, certain inalienable rights. But with those rights come limitations. And these limitations are necessary so that the society will not be thrown into utter chaos, fiasco. Of course, you can just imagine what the society would be if everybody have a license to do what he or she wishes to do. If I have the license, to slap you, would I slap you? If I have the rights now to punch you, would I do that?
Okay.
Yes, the law, under the law, I have a right to defend myself. But of course, I cannot exercise that right if I'm not in danger. If I do not, feel and perceive danger. So that right will only be ripe when I'm in a state of danger. So to that extent, even if under the Constitution, a man have the right, to belong to any association of his choice. Yes, you have a right to belong to any association of your choice if that association is legal. It must not be a secret court. There are certain associations, that are outlawed in our society. So those associations that fall under the category of associations that are outlawed, no man have a right, to belong to those associations. So
if you are found wanting, you can go in for it.
You face the music.
Okay, so let's relate that to right to freedom of expression at the press.
Well, freedom of expression is also guaranteed under our Constitution. What it means is that we have a right, to express our thoughts anyhow we wishes to, anywhere we want to, so long as it does not cause injury.
Okay.
To another man.
So the moment it causes injury,
yes, it's equally
becomes actionable.
Yes, it's equally limited, by libel and
slander,
libel and slander. I think we have dealt extensively with libel and slander.
Yes.
In another segment of this program.
Now, I love this one. 41, we are omitting right to peaceful assembly and association because it kind of has a link to all the ones we've talked about. Right to freedom of movement.
Yes, the right to freedom of movement is another very, very interesting one.
Especially when we're looking at it politically.
Yes, you are in a political dispensation. It means that at no point must the movement of any person be restricted or banned.
Okay.
What it means is that you have the right to move about, your legal, business. You can go, to anywhere you want to go to. You are free, to move to anywhere, you want to move to. Of course, this right is equally limited.
Okay. I was waiting for that.
It's equally limited in a period of emergency.
Okay.
For example, where the country is at war, movements can be restricted. There can even be outright ban of movements. Where there's any form of activity in the form of crisis and hostilities such that threaten the peace and orderliness of the society, or even threaten the corporate existence of the country. The governments have a duty to impose a dust coffin.
So you cannot make any noise about that. And that will not amount to infringing on your rights as a citizen.
Not at all. Within a time frame, for the purpose of sustaining and maintaining peace in the society, for the purpose of maintaining peace, orderliness in the society, and for the purpose of protecting the corporate existence of the country, as well as defending the suzerainty and the sovereignty of the country, certain rights can be suspended.
Okay.
Because without the country there will be no you. The country, exists so that we all, can exist.
Okay, as we round off now, I'd like you to talk, maybe for a minute or two on our laws generally. We seem to have plenty of laws in this country, but implementation is a problem. How do we get our laws to function and function well?
Even in our family home, of course, implementation has always been the problem. This is a problem that has characterized the Nigerian society, since born I was. We've had beautiful laws. We've had beautiful policies, but implementation have always been a problem. And that is why the society is crying out, for men, with character, for men who have that moral courage, not only to do the right thing, but to understand the problem and know how to go about the problem, within the ambit of the law. And for a man to be able to do that, a man must understand the law. He must understand his rights, his limitations. He must understand the scope of his power and act accordingly. And beyond that, such a man, must have, the political will. Without the political will, powers are not exercisable. Without the political will, laws may not be implementable.
Okay.
So we need people, leaders, with the strength of character, with the moral courage, which will form, the foundation for the exercise of, political will that is necessary to implement policies and law for the peace, progress, and development of the society, so that happiness that we all seek
will finally be there. All right, St. Michael, thank you so much for making my day on the program,
It's
Law
a pleasure.
and You. And this is all we're doing today. We thank you so much for being part of it. See you again next week. Bye.